Okay, I'm going to start to work on the 1/350th scale Titan model Ktinga battle cruiser, and the first step I'm going to do is look at the neck assembly. Now, you see this neck assembly slides into the base of the engineering deck, slides back, and that's as far as it goes because this is actually protruding too far in this direction. So this piece of tube, I think it should have actually been pushed all the way back in, but I've checked it and it still goes about halfway into this block, so that was going to be sufficient to be able to carry the load. So what I'm going to do is actually cut that off, and to do that I'm going to use a piece of hacksaw blade and just basically saw this off. Also, this edge of excess resin, I'll try to get it off at the same time. Okay, now that I've drilled this out, I don't know how well you can see that, but it's pretty smooth. This excess flashing is gone. Yeah, of course, it's still a bit rough. The next step I'm going to do is I have a drill that's 1/4 inch bit, and I'm going to just drill into this hole to deburr the brass. That's all it needs. Just one pass with the 1/4 inch bit. 1/4 inch is actually a bit too small, but I'm going to go back then with my diamond files. I get this Harbor Freight's bag of diamond files here, and get this oval shaped bit file, and then I'm going to just do a little extra deburring around the inside of this hole to get rid of any sharp edges. That's fairly smooth. I just want to make sure that the inside of this is going to allow the other pipe to slide easily. So let's see how that fits. Fits in and slides back with no problem. So this side of the hole is good for the time being. I'm still going to have to, this edge is still a bit rough, the edges are. I'm going to clean those up. There's a little flashing there. But the main thing we'll do now is work on this one, and I'm going to saw these pieces of flashing off. Oh, and let me show you my expensive tool. This is a broken hacksaw blade. I simply wrap the end of it in painter's tape. It's about 18 inches of painter's tape there, 1 inch wide, so it's thick enough that you can get a hold on it, so it won't slip or cut your hand as you're using it, and it makes for a neat little tool to use. So now I'm going to go and work on this flashing. I'll show you how well this does work. Get it started here. And as you can see, it just cuts right through the resin. Relatively easy. Now you could also grind this off, but there would be a considerable amount of dust if you ground through that whole piece. Okay, beautiful. There's still just a little tag there. Good. So that's relatively smooth. I'm going to go back with some rough sandpaper to finish it down. Of course, it's an inside joined edge, so it doesn't have to be perfect. The main thing is make sure I don't get into the structure, and that's looking good. And that's both sides off. Now this should seat almost perfectly, and it does. And this piece, and this little piece I cut off by using the saw, modified hacksaw, would have been quite a bit of dust that I would have had in my work area that I don't have by using that cheap homemade tool. Of course, this is upside down. Let me put it on the right way. And again, as I've shown before, the detail is this piece here. Okay, so if this piece here is not absolutely perfect, it doesn't really matter, because this piece is what actually gets attached to the front of the ship to give it all the detail. It's a little flexible piece that will just attach like so. Okay? So the first step is complete. This is relatively smooth, and this does indeed now fit. The excess resin has been removed, and it is able to mate and seat well. Of course, it does have a crack, but again, this piece is actually will go in here first. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and just stick it in there. Might give you a better idea. Line it up with that hole, and of course, like I'm not going to glue it in place now, of course. But again, just to push this in place to show how the ship goes together. And then of course the upper part here is the upper deck. But this does, by using this technique, it does save quite a bit of finish work on the main deck. Do have to smooth this up a bit, but that's for another day and another project. Okay. So, with that done, and again, the reason for this is to get the neck here, and then I do have the hole, as you can see here, runs through for my lighting, so I can actually pull a wire through this neck. One of the next tasks that I want to do, and it's this piece here. Now this piece aligns to the neck, and the front of this piece has a pulsing light. But as you can see, this piece is a key piece of cast solid resin, so it's not really possible to light it as is. But I do have a plan. I'm going to drill a hole through here at this angle that will allow me to get a LED in this area, and then on the back side I will be drilling a hole in here, small hole, just small enough for some magnet wire through to here and through this bulkhead, to provide the connectivity for that, because I don't actually want to drill into this copper tube to weaken it in any way. And again, I'm going to be using a very tiny drill to drill this section with and through here, so it won't actually weaken the resin to any extent, because I'm going to be using a 32 gauge low temp magnet wire to run this connection. Let me get started on this, and the other thing I'm going to do is, you know, this is kind of flat at the top here, and if you look at the images, I'll put one up now. Showing this area here, it's actually a little square area. It's not a round LED. It's a little square section that's illuminated. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do on this ship. Okay, now that I've got these two parts where they go together, I'm going to work on this conning section, and this piece is not cast and clear. I have seen some of these cats where these were cast and clear. If it were cast and clear, it would be slightly easier to do because this section up here needs to be illuminated. And what I've actually done is took a big file and carefully positioned it here. Now, I've made a notch. I don't know how well that shows on camera, but there's a little notch here that will accept a piece of acrylic. So I'm going to actually have a clear piece of acrylic and I'm going to add to this for this area. And then I'm going to drill down through here with a small bit, trench out through here, come in through here, and bring the separate set of wires out along the back. I don't want to drill into this tube because I don't want to weaken it any. But this will give me the same effect without this being clear, just a little more work to put a piece of clear frosted acrylic in here when I get closer to the end. But now I'm going to go ahead and drill down through here to make that hole. Okay. Okay, I decided to use a 1/16 inch drill bit to drill up the center of this to where I can mount my SMD and my piece of acrylic up here. Okay, there we go. We got our hole here. Probably have to widen that a bit before I put my SMD in there. But that's got the hole through the back and up to this section here that's going to have the piece of acrylic in it. Okay, going to set this up to where it needs to be. Find a pencil and mark where that starts, which is right about there, because it was indented in. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and do that. In the center of this, I'll bring a line out on either side, and then over to the side a little bit, come up just a fraction to where I can see. Line it again, and that's perfect right there. That dot right there is where this hole comes out. It needs to be in the center of this. I believe I'm going to be able to eyeball this and get it pretty close based on the fact that I can line it up with this section here and get the top of that basically centered at the top, pull it back down through there, and do a mark. It would be a whole lot easier if I had a felt tip pen, but anyway, that's the general idea of what I wanted to do. Again, use this tiny drill bit. You know, come to think of it, rather than drilling that, I think I'm going to go back to my big tank tool type file, flat file. I call this tank tools. This is for like a woodworker or engineer's tools, but they can, again, like I said, they can work on a model. Here's a nice square one. And since this resin files fairly easily, I think we'll just try to use a file and make a trench. Okay, got a little trench started there. I'll make it just a little bit deeper, but since I'm going to be using those 32 gauge fly wires, I only need a couple of them going to that light, so it doesn't need to be a huge gap there. And as you can see, this big file just cuts through that resin like butter. Look at that. Perfect. This will set up here. Looks like I'm probably going to need to do a little more, a little further in, down the front. Make sure I've got plenty of room to bend it in. Oh yeah, that's going to work great. That will work great. Plenty of room to bend the wire around there, and that lines up very well indeed. And as you can see from the back, that's a nice gap there, so that's going to be plenty of room to pull 2 fly wires in. Now I've got to reinstall this into the bulkhead, and this time I am going to drill, mark it. Using a ballpoint pen is not ideal. A felt tip would work much better, but that's what I got handy, so that's what I'm using. And I've loaded a 1/16 inch drill. Okay, now that I've got that hole marked, take my drill with 1/16 tip. Drill the hole out, and I kind of want this to curve down, so what I'm going to do is take my file here, and just make a little trench. Doesn't take much. Resin cuts quickly with these coarse files. Okay, now, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a nice little trench there with a nice little curve. So those wires will just pull through there and drop down into this main body with no problem. All right, I guess that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully we'll get some more progress done later in the week, and I can have another one up shortly. Thanks.